Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tane Talks. I am your host, Tane, here for the final episode of Couples Therapy Season 5. We made it, y'all. Here with me, as always, is Jenn. Hi, Jenn. How are you?
So many things are wrapping up, Tane. This is my husband and I's last day in Bali. We leave tomorrow for Australia, and this is the last episode of couples therapy. So it feels like things are quietly and happily coming to an end. These are all happy endings, actually.
Hey, yo,
Hey, you.
Chris.
No.
Sorry, had to put your fave in there somehow.
Bad
Um,
Tane.
How did you feel about this finale? Like, what your overall quick summary? I mean, we're gonna go through it, but what was your overall thoughts about the finale?
Shook. I think I went through the whole range of emotions. If I had to pick one word, it would be shook. But then happily shook in some ways and not happily shook in other ways. What about you?
Oh, interesting. I would say rushed. We've complained about this where it felt like there was a lot of gaps through the season, and of course, I'm expecting things to wrap up because it is the final episode. But it was just, okay. I mean, sure, was, how I felt about it. Like, you could tell it was a finale, but it was just like, okay, I mean, I guess this is it. So yeah. The one thing different that they did was they started with Marjorie and Jason, but they really weren't the first couple that they started with. So I don't, I guess I didn't understand why they didn't put this part during their segment. But they started the episodes with Jason saying, when I was younger, I was a bad kid. I had a bunch of diagnoses. Like, I went to so many therapists and it sucked because they gave me so many drugs. And his mom even found like a world renowned guy. He actually says his name, but Showtime is like, not today, Satan, you're not gonna sue us. And they blipped it out. They blipped it out. But Orna is like, oh, I know that name, like probably in their world, their therapy world and stuff. And Jason was like, he got that guy so pissed that the guy grabbed him by the shirt, dragged him out, and his mother was standing in the hallway and saw him. And I gotta add that when Jason is telling us the story, his voice is raised, his voice is agitated. And I know Jason sounds agitated all the time, but this was an octave higher, would you say?
It was certainly, it was kind of like pride. Like he was so happy. The way I feel about Chris being so happy to tell his story, like he was
Yeah.
kind of real happy to tell this story. And I think he clocked that I'm not supposed to be happy, but I'm happy and I can't stop myself. But yeah, putting this at the beginning felt like, have you ever watched those videos where somebody's like, all right, this is a terrible thing that happened, so stay to the end? It felt like that, like they were trying to bait us into watching the whole episode, which is like, I'm already here, so that was unnecessary.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It makes no sense because we wouldn't know anyways. But I get what you're saying. Like, okay, look out for their part, but they came second
Mm-hmm.
anyway. So it was just
Right.
very odd, especially because it was a huge connection to what their story was going
Yes.
to be. So I
Yeah.
don't know. But to your point, he kept saying, I won that interaction. But also, I'm like, who the heck is this guy? If your patient can drag you out your character, or maybe it is your character, for you to grab a guy by his shirt and drag him out, maybe you shouldn't be a therapist.
Yeah, but I mean, if somebody, I feel like Jason, that was his intention. Like he went in there to say, how far can I push this guy? Because I'm going there to prove that, oh, you're world renowned. I'm going to prove that I could get you out of your character. So he probably said and did some wild, crazy shit that if this guy is world renowned, people probably approach him so gingerly and gently because he's world renowned. It's kind of what I imagine Beyonce's world is like. Um, and so to have somebody go completely the opposite end, that guy was not prepared for that. So no, he shouldn't be at a place where it sounds like Jason was a child at the time, can get you at your character. But also if you're challenged and you're not
Then
used
you
to it, it's like,
walk
ugh.
then you walk out.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
I'm not saying that guy handled that properly, but I'm sure Jason did some shit to get the guy to that level.
okay, so Orna says, like in couples therapy, nothing is what it seems, and there are all these ways we can project onto people that are based on nothing but our own fantasies. And as you get to know them, the picture changes. Much of it is not unusual, but when a couple's treatment is progressing really well, it's not unusual for couples to surprise her with suddenly toying with the idea of maybe breaking up. Suddenly, there's a feeling of, do we really still want this? And I think it's important for her not to rush in. This is Orna talking, so speaking in her tense. It's important for her not to rush in and try to influence the need to experience that as their own choice. So this was also odd because they're showing us Jason, right? And being one and interactions. And then Orna switches completely, like, oh, couples want to break up and blah, 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 because it's a segue to Chris and Sienna. And I'm like, we're wrapping up. Don't confuse us. Like, we don't need all these gimmicks. We're here already. So,
Right.
anyways, this was a segue to Chris and Sienna. And then we just move on to them. So, Chris says he was spinning after the last session and he woke up really early, staring at the back of her head and just thinking, what if she still has that feeling of, I don't want to be with you? And I was like, yeah, instead of just wondering, I could just ask her. I'm like, good job, Chris. Like, honestly, as human beings, that solves a lot of things instead of assumptions and worrying. Just flat out ask, you know?
Right.
So he asked her, and she said, no, I don't want to separate. I don't have a need to do that. And I've been saying this all season, the gaps, because it's always unfortunate that we don't get to see what the turning point is. This
Yeah.
is the second couple where there has been a change of mind, and we're just like, okay, they're pivoting, so we pivot too.
Right.
But how do you go from what if my life is great without you to oh my god,
Mhm.
no, like oh my god, what I would never leave you, what is that?
And that was and they got me because Orna started talking about, she's not trying to influence breakups. And last week, Sienna got to the point where she was like, what if I got out of this? I'm done. What if I left this relationship? So I thought this was a lead in to them being
Mm-hmm.
broken up. So when they came
Mm-hmm.
in all handholdy, I was like, wait, what?
Well, we should that shame on us. We saw that with Drea and Nessa, so we should have known,
We,
you
we
know.
should have known. We should have known.
So yeah, so that's the thing, and that's one of my critiques of the season is it's just hard to be invested or to know what is happening because there's so many shifts and turns that it feels like we're missing something, and it's like what this just a pivot. So um she said like she had moments that she's adjusting, she being Sienna, she's adjusting to even demanding anything from anyone because part of what we saw from last week is it looks like Sienna has had an awakening. Instead of being a people pleaser, instead of butling stuff, instead of being like choose joy, she's now leaning into her. Did I say that dripping with sarcasm?
You
I'm so
did out loud.
sorry. Sorry,
Uh-uh.
not. But so she's like, she's getting used to that. And like this week, she had moments where she was just like, I'm so mad at you. Like, I'm so fucking mad at you. Chris and Sienna curse a lot, I realized. And it's like before, she would just be like so fucking terrified, and she would just let it pass. And Chris is like, I prefer this. Like, yes, it terrifies me when she does that, but I don't care if she feels it. I prefer that versus her holding it in. The only thing I don't want is I don't want it directed at me. But now, because I have the tools and all of that, I'm like, okay, let's work with it. Like, what are you feeling? How do you feel it? And what can we do with those feelings? And I know you don't care for Chris, but what did you think of that?
I don't know when it changed, and I know we want to know when things change, and I can't tell you when it changed, probably 2 episodes ago. When he finally gave her the space to be her and he was being supportive and he didn't step up and make her situation about him is when I softened on Chris. So redemption arc achieved for Chris. I like that he is able to be a partner to her now. I still don't forgive him for cheating on her.
Hmm.
But it's not my husband. So if she forgives him, if she likes it, I love it. Um, but I think they now have this space where they seem to be more open with each other and they seem to be more authentic in who they are, which is good.
Wow, the couples aren't the only one pivoting right here on Taint Talks, guys. Jen is pivoting too. Except we know her turning point or we see it now. She explained, that part. Okay, so Sienna says it's almost like honestly a physical softness that lives within him now. Like before, like you could see the shark eyes, the tense body, the redness, and then they said the sphincter, and I'm like, where are we going with this? But they
I mean,
explain. Go
they
ahead.
just like to use words that are so dramatic. Like if you can just say, "Hey, he looked a little tense," they're going to go with sphincter. Like I don't know why they need to pick the most dramatic words that they can find to describe a situation. So, in addition to all the cursing, and they just like being shocking, which is why they're probably a perfect fit for each other.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm like, where are we going with this with the mention of sphincter? But I think they said his asshole used to be so tight. I'm like, guys, when you are fighting, do you take a break to be like, bend over and let me see how tight your asshole? Like, why are we doing this? Like, we're
They
just
probably do.
being you know what?
They
It's
probably
true.
do.
They're
These
just being
two,
so
yeah.
dramatic. But used to be so tight, then they were like, okay, maybe not the sphincter, just the cheeks. That she would actually stand there and then pat his butt and they'd be like, oh, it's like tight. But now she's like, she'll pat it and it's like, oh yeah, it's like a normal tush. I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? But let's go with it. So he says he thinks his ass has been clenched since he was 4 or 5 up until like 4 months ago. And I'm like, you know, he's a writer, right? They should just write their own Broadway play and just get all this dramatic energy out.
I'm saying, like, and was his sphincter clenched when he was cuddling these younger girls with the big boobs? Like,
Hey, I
I'm
thought
just
you
a
turned a corner.
I'd be asking for a friend, asking for a friend.
So she said like she thinks like it's like the forgiveness aspect that she likes. I guess they took a turn on that the pain actually does lessen, but she doesn't think she's ever had to forgive anyone. So this feels really new to her. So she feels herself like, even in that forgiveness, thinking, like, am I doing it right? Like, is there a way that someone forgives? Like, she just has the need to do it the right way because if she does it the right way, because it will work. But I think that's the people pleasing in her to make sure, like, oh, it's just one of those, I did my homework, I'm an A student, like, kind of stuff that even in the stuff where she didn't do the crime, you have the upper hand. I guess this is the power Orna has been talking about. And she's still critiquing herself, wondering if she's forgiving right. Oof, that's a lot of pressure.
But and then I don't know, it's stopped me because I was like, "But didn't she talk about forgiving her mom? Like, is she not actually not forgiving her mom? Like, is this truly the
Mhm.
first time?" I'm like, "You had all that stuff going on with your mom." I don't
Well,
know.
well, that's a good point. But I would say, like, even when she talked about her mom, it seemed like it was during her choose joy. So I'm not going to process it because if I process it, I'm going to be mad. So I'm just going to accept her for what she is. And it is what it is. She's my mom. And this is our relationship. And so be it. So, kind of like what she was doing with Chris, not processing it and dimming herself. But I do think she suffers from the same thing as Marge and that guy from last season who just didn't want to speak negatively about their parent, where it's like, I signed up for this and I don't want to drag them. But if she's in her feeling things era, eventually, like Orna said, you can't repress things because they'll come to the surface eventually. So, to answer your question, I don't think she forgave her mom. I think she had. there's no capacity. Let me deal with Chris first. That's my immediate family, and then the mom stuff will come later.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So she says, like, you know how people say love is a verb? I feel like forgiving or forgiveness is a verb. Like it's something I'm going to have to do every day. And also, the forgiveness involves forgiving herself for 13 years of making herself feel small to fit Chris. And she does say, I like forgiving you. It feels good. I'm like, all right. Whatever, but if it gives you
I think
peace, yeah.
I think they're both very they're in this playful phase right now, and so that's
Mhm.
what it feels like. It feels like we're in this giddy part where I don't know, we found each other again and we'll get there, but it just they're in that like new phase where everything they do is cute and I'm going to touch your butt and all of that. So,
Yeah.
good for that. Good for them.
I agree. It's kind of like when you do a vow renewal. So this is their
Yeah.
renewal honeymoon
Oh
phase.
no. That's always the kiss of death on a housewife show.
Yeah, it is. But just for that sake, like if it's like you're starting afresh and this is the honeymoon phase of that. So whether it's gonna last, we don't know. But that's the phase that they're in right now. Um. So Orna says, Chris, I'm going to go back to you with the tools that you already know. Like, how are you feeling? Like, with your feelings, are they catching up with you? And hope that you're paying attention to these new feelings that Sienna has. And he says like he caught those early, but he knows what he's feeling, and now he also knows that what he's feeling, he's not a sociopath. Like he knows like, okay, what is it that I'm feeling right now? And he knows that he's not being pushed away, that when the feelings come back, they're just gonna come back, when it comes. I guess in relation to his mom was what she was talking about in that regard. So he says, but when he comes out, he just makes room for it to come. And he just says that he wants to tell Sienna that it was really wonderful to feel her full presence when she got mad. Oh, Orna said that. Orna says, like, it was great for her to see her full presence, which is true because we talked about it, that at some point it felt like she wasn't showing her full self, but she got to be in the full spectrum of her feelings and was not faking it anymore. And I'm glad that we got to see that too.
Yeah, so we got to see her whatever the opposite of disassociated is,
Mm-hmm.
associated. So now
Mm-hmm.
she's associating in her relationship and therapy with her feelings. So yeah, I think this whole episode is, at least with Chris and Sienna, is good because I feel like we get to see the progress, and we have no idea how many months long this is, but and also knowing that there's a
Yeah.
finality to it, like we have to end at this time.
Yeah.
If that makes things go faster, if you know, like, oh, we have to get there in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, whatever. And so it's good that they were able to get there, even though we didn't get to see the full spectrum of it.
Yeah. So Orna says that it's been really lovely working with them, and she just wants to mark that Sienna, for example, allowing herself to feel more anger might put Chris in a difficult spot considering his mom. So she just wants to mark that so he can think about that. And Chris is like, "Oh yeah, I marked that right away. That he knows that she's his safe place, and he just needs to kind of rehearse it and get familiar with it." And Sienna thinks like they're focusing more on the present, that the only thing is that even though she's feeling this anger, she does need to have an outlet, and maybe like kickboxing. And then Chris is like, bring Tybo back. I'm like, oh my god, don't age us. I'm sure some people are like, Tybo, what is that?
Shout out to Billy Blanks.
Google it, Taebo, I think. um
The videos in college.
Honor says, right, that is true, but you're still thinking that the outlet needs to be somewhere else. And not that it shouldn't, but what about between the two of you? And she's not sure about that, but they said that's something that, they could work on. So they also want to point out that even with the being present, with the big feelings, that she's also, I think Chris is saying this, that she's also kind and logical, which is very different, from his mother. So they
Yeah.
can both try it as she's, getting all these big feelings. And he says like he thinks that that's one of the things that threw him off about his mom, is that his mom was all emotion and nothing else, and that's not the case with Sienna. So he feels really good about them. And it is interesting because I don't think I thought that there was a connection to his mother, but I guess the common denominator is the big feelings. But he seems to have big feelings. We can't see
Oh
it because
gosh.
he's not in one of the dead shark eyes situation. But I don't know. If Orna didn't say it, I don't know that I would have connected it to his mother.
I think I see the connection in terms of his reaction to it. I don't know his reaction to Sienna comes from his feelings with his mother, but I don't see Sienna representing his mother. But
Yeah.
for me, it came to like you're reacting to her as if she's going to behave like your mother. It's the same thing that we both didn't like last week when Orna said to Sienna, like, cheating is not rape. Like, I guess she's trying to
Mm,
make that analogy of Sienna is not your mother.
mm,
So
yeah. Okay. So they say this has been like a second chance. It feels like we're getting married again. It feels like we're saying, okay, here we go. And it's crazy because they are about to start anew right now. And that was it. And we see them eating ice cream on a stoop. And this is the second time we're
cute.
seeing them eat because previously we saw them eating tacos or something at the truck. And Orna tells us in a voiceover that they came in a real crisis, not sure if they're going to make it. And they came out so strong. And I was like, I had no doubt that they would be together though. Like,
You
did
didn't?
we,
Oh, I
no,
did.
did we think they were not going to make it, Chris and Sienna?
I did. I mean, I think that when last week when she got to the point of my whole life is wrapped up in you and what would my life look like without you and you're an extension of me and I want to see what I look like without you. I thought she was ready to go. I mean, but they've got 3 kids, so maybe that beyond love, but maybe the 3 kids too is something that you've got to consider when you're making
Yeah,
a big
maybe it
decision.
is, but I didn't think about that. But what I mean is like Orna says they came. Like not I'm not including it from last episode was towards the end. But she says when they came in, like for the first time, they were in a real crisis, not sure if they were going to make it. But when they came in, it didn't seem like they were in a crisis. It just seemed like they were trying to work through the infidelity, but she didn't seem like she was going anywhere. This woman cradled his head on her lap.
I know.
So
Blech.
that's what I meant. So she says they realize that they can actually deal with it. Like she can be, I think she was telling Virginia this, that she can be angry and he can be present to her anger. And they were all like, oh my God, we can actually be in the presence of each other with all of our complexities. And their relationship turned into like a much richer relationship. Any final thoughts with them?
I did like Chris said, "You're my safe place, even when you're angry," and I was like, "Oh, that was sweet." So, and I
Wow.
think maybe more couples need to not more the couples that are in crisis um, probably need to figure that out. I'm talking to you, Marjorie and Jason.
Wow, guys, Jen said something Chris said was sweet, but yeah, I agree. That's what I always said. Like between Chris and Sienna, to me, like even when they were going through it, like it felt like you could always still see the tenderness and the love between them compared to like Marjorie and Jason, who I think don't even like each other. So there's that. Okay, take our first break, and I'll be right back.
You guys know I love to read, and I sometimes share in some episodes what I'm currently reading. Every now and then, I challenge myself to read something outside of my usual genre, and that book for me now is House of Rain by Harley LaRue. It's a gothic romance novel that follows Salem, who ends up stranded on a remote island instead of going on her honeymoon. There she meets the mysterious Rain, whose family manor is filled with unsettling secrets. Then people start dying, something begins stalking the forest at night, and what starts as a forbidding attraction turns into a fight for survival. With the isolated island, gothic mansions, and the creeping sense that something terrible is always just out of sight, I was intrigued and creeped out. If you're a fan of supernatural suspense and dark romance with an unforgettable atmosphere, check out House of Rain by Harley LaRue, now available wherever books are sold in print and in ebook.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance, all backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.
Okay. And we're back with Marjorie and Jason. So hopefully you remember what we said at the top of the episode because Showtime decided, oh, we should put them in the beginning. So we continue on that. And Orna is talking to Virginia and says that both Marjorie and Jason, we're seeing Marjorie and Jason in their home and their son are very eager to make use of therapy. They're fast learners, but they're also fast forgetters.
Which is the truest thing I've heard all day. Like, and we talked about that before. It's like they get in therapy and they figure something out, and like the minute they walk through that threshold of the door, they forget
Yeah.
everything and they revert. So yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Virginia says that it seems like he has this feeling like, well, that was better, yeah, but then the next time he's triggered, he just forgets everything that he knows. And he said, and I think Orner said a few times there was in sessions which he, oh no, Orner is the one who says like in their sessions, she's just like, they go back into they regress for lack of a better word, and she's like, well, I guess we've done nothing here, and she thinks that that's where he needs work. But Honor is like, I don't think it's just Jason who's impulsive. I think Marjorie is impulsive too. They do a lot in this.
Finally, finally, we were saying last week that it seems like Orna picks a
Orna,
side, and we
yeah,
think that side was Marjorie. So finally,
yeah.
she finally says something about Marjorie being part of the problem. Yes.
She has to. You can't deny it at some point. So she says, like, they do a lot in the session. It seems to all get better. And then they go back home and it's like Groundhog Day and they start all over again. And now we're back in therapy. They sit down and Marjorie is like, I want to start the session before Jason starts talking because I've been reflecting on the past few months and I feel like we're getting so much better. Why? But then we had
Yeah.
like a huge
Oh,
fight. But
what?
then we had like a huge fight yesterday, and it's about something major. I'm like, what now? Is it her mother? And Marjorie thinks that their son has ADHD. This is Jason talking. And he's like, she took him to her doctor to get him diagnosed, and he had no idea. And I'm like, oh my word. How are we here in the finale episode? Again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Marjorie's trying to chime in and saying like, no, 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 it didn't go down that way. Like I went to my pediatrician, to his pediatrician for his yearly evaluation. I'm like, okay. Jason is like, sure. All I know is I got hit with Ryan got a diagnosis. They want to put him on medication and he lost his absolute mind. Understood. We started the episode with him telling us that his mom tried to put him on drugs. He tried to fight a psychiatrist or he tried to take down like KO on Street Fighter or something, and he conquered the world renowned guy. And you tell this man, and I think we find out later in a text message, these people
Mhm.
are doing too much. And they start arguing about semantics and who said what, and Orna is just like, pause, pause. And I'm like, this does not feel like a final session. This feels
No.
like we are just starting and we know nothing, Jon Snow. So Arner says, okay, can we pause and can we listen to each other in a way where it's like, how did my partner experience this? I'm like,
No, they can't.
oh,
In
they
one word,
can't.
no, they absolutely cannot because they're so wrapped up in their feelings and they're so wrapped up in being right and they're so wrapped up in Orna being the referee to be like, beep, that person's wrong, that they can't stop for 5 seconds. They know what they're doing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they know. You can't possibly go through all the steps that you've gone through because in this situation with her doing whatever she did with the son, and you're going to get into that, but also the last time when Jason did whatever he did with the mom, there's
Mm-hmm.
several steps that they both took to get to where they're at. And at no point in any of those steps did they stop to think, well, they thought it. I did this because it was going to piss you off. And so I
Yeah.
didn't
And
tell you. So they knew it.
And I'm saying this over and over again. They don't like each other. They don't
Nope.
respect each other. They're
Nope.
just on two parallel lanes living in the same house.
Mm-hmm. For
So
what?
Orna says, okay, Jason's experience was that she hit him with a whole bunch of information, and then he cuts her off and was like, "It was brutal for me," because
He's
Jason's
so
always like,
dramatic.
He said he was upset because he felt like she did it because she was afraid of him shooting that idea down. I gotta tell you guys, Marjorie looked very guilty. She's like, I understand. I hear that because I think Orna asked, what do you feel? Or what did you hear? I hear that he felt left out. And I'm like, again, you did something behind his back. But I'm saying that she looked guilty, like she was twirling her hair real bad. And I totally feel, yes, she's saying that she took him for his yearly eval. I do think she was a little shifty and was manipulative, and we're going to talk about it later, like in detail what happened. But I'm like, okay. So she says, yeah, I haven't told you everything because it was like a text and it was a quick phone call at work, so it'll be the first time that you're hearing this. Jen, are you hearing this?
Yes, that's crazy. So you've just said to his face, I didn't tell you everything. I'm going to tell you now, but don't get mad because, like, how are you? He operated with a little bit of, or Orna's operating with a little bit of information that makes you look good. And this is the problem with your relationship.
And this is where I feel both of them, I don't know if I include Orner in this, failed because now there's a codependency of therapy. They're not taking anything that they learned and practicing it outside of therapy. She purposefully waited until therapy to say everything because they cannot communicate without a referee.
Yep.
Referee being Orna.
Yep. Or, and when
And
if it's not Orna, it's probably their kids
oh
or her mom.
gosh. And she doesn't realize that when you dump information on people, now you've got it out your chest, but someone has to receive it and process it. And he is not equipped by any means to
And she
process
knows
all of
that.
this
And she
information.
knows that. That's the crazy thing is she absolutely knows that. So instead of finding a way to deliver the information in a way that he could receive it, she just did it her way and is mad that he's mad. Like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. So what she said is Ryan has been struggling in school and she took him for the eval and it's like, oh, casually, I'm talking to the physician and I told him some of my worries and concerns. My guess or my imagination is like she led him to those worries and concerns to the path where she wanted him to be. And he's like, oh, sure, well, we can absolutely do the assessment. It was a form, that a parent had to fill out. And then you send it to the school, to the teacher. And I'm like,
Teacher.
Let's go back. Let us
Right.
go back, Marjorie. Don't tell me or try to frame it like you just went to the doctor, it happened to be part of his eval when there are many steps that you take because the time that you use to call the teacher, fill out the form, send it over, his dad, the man you call husband, the man he calls father, who lives in the same house as you skip that step
Yes. And
knowing his
also,
background.
yep. And
Oh
also,
my god.
Jason is not an uninvolved dad. He's not one of those dads where you see them do interviews on the street and they ask the dad, like, what's your kid's teacher's name? And they're like, I don't know. What's your kid's birthday? I don't know. Like Jason seems to be an involved dad. There's no reason why you would need to purposely keep him out. Well, the reason is you're worried about him exploding, but to do this when he's an involved dad is worse.
I just I don't I would never shit on anyone's parenting style unless it's like really egregious, but I don't know that we know enough. But the little that we know, I do not understand Marjorie's parenting style. I don't get it. Um, and she goes, yes, and I gotta tell you guys, she was going a mile a minute, just saying all of this, just dumping this on this man who is again not equipped to handle any of this, and says, yes, I did not tell you about that because I was worried about your reaction, and then I'm sorry. And then I'm like, ah, you're looking back, it's like you can't just say I'm sorry. But she was like, I was just so worried that I didn't tell you because I didn't want your reaction. And for me, it was just the way she was being casual, like it's not a major thing. If you are with someone where you don't want to share things because of their reaction, should you even be married?
Or should you figure out the tools that you can communicate with this person in a way that's going to be received by them? Because I think he's got this history with it, and you as his partner that knows his history should be able to have a communication with him that's going to make him be receptive to it. And I feel like we had last week, the week before, probably the months before, you guys have had to have this skill, this technique that Orna makes you stop and go, think about the other person. What did you hear them say? You've practiced this before, and you Groundhog Day and completely forgot how to work this. You're super wrong, Marjorie. So wrong.
But you remember that when they came in, that was his major gripe, that I'm not heard, I'm being dismissed. Like whenever she wants to do anything, she just goes ahead and does what she wants to do without telling me. And remember, he really feels like he has no agency in the house. Her mom pays the school fees. The daughter goes into the emails and deletes emails whenever the mom tells her they have a secret code. And he says, I don't want dogs and cats. She brings dogs and cats in there. I want them to go to a different school. She's like, no, we're going 80 miles each way. I just, he's just there. And Orner is like, the Orner we know is like, I understand why you're mad, Jason, but I want to remind you that you also do things without telling Marjorie. And I'm like, okay, she got to stand up for her girl, I guess. But
Oy, oy, oy.
she says the two of you operate kind of solo. Like, you remember when you sent a letter to her mom that you knew would be terribly upsetting, but it's not about who started what. I just want you both to acknowledge that you are not operating as a team. And I'm like, bingo, because you don't fucking
Amen.
like each other. I just, that is the crux, the beginning of everything. If you don't regard the person, if you don't see the person, there's nothing they're gonna do. Like that is the Orna nailed it. They operate like they're solo people, but the problem is there's a kid. They have to rely on parenting styles. Oh gosh. Yeah. Um and what Orna tells them is like, okay, maybe different language is like you can say I do the same thing and this is not good for us, but how are we going to get out of this operating solo? That is not going to work. And then Marjorie is like, but wait, I haven't told him everything yet. I'm like, stop. I don't even want to know what the everything else is because I don't think we can take it. So again, a mile a minute, she's like, okay, I got a phone call yesterday from the pediatrician and he's telling me about the drug options. There are two options. And he goes, there's one particular medication, out of the two, but he said one will be best because it's not like it's addictive. He said it's Adderall and it's a capsule. But let me finish. And Jason's like, I cannot listen to this. There's no way in hell I am putting my son on drugs. And he was like, I wasn't even there during the conversation that came about any of this because this is ridiculous. And I'm just, how can he make a decision when he wasn't there?
Yeah,
I can't believe this
it's
is
crazy.
real. And Marjorie feels so
And it's
justified
serious.
in what
Yeah,
she's
it's
doing.
serious. And she really thought Orna was going to be on her side. She was so ready for Orna to be like, Jason, you're a POS. Go have a protein shake and sit in the corner. She was ready for Orna to be on her side.
I think what's worse is that, again, this is supposed to be the end of their session. So it just feels like we achieved nothing. Absolutely nothing. Orna is trying to calm them down, and I'm just sitting and watching in disbelief. And Jason he makes a good point. There's Marjorie goes again, making us be with Jason when he says, like, Orna says we should tell each other from the perspective of how you feel. But you're not telling me how you feel. You are telling me details about this. And that's when I said, like, I think she's being manipulative. She absolutely waited until they could be in the office with Orna and was like, well, we're here now. At least you can't say I didn't tell you. So Orna tells her that you know that he has a history that is sensitive to this. So you have to be aware of who you're speaking to. That is something that Marjorie does not possess. If you choose to marry someone who has, like, some addiction issues, some trauma and things like that, you have to know that you cannot just move like it's yourself. You have to be realize that there's going to be sensitivity to certain things, certain ways. And remember when we found out that what was it that we found out? Oh, that he was an addict. The first time we found out that he was an addict, and she's just like, "Oh, he's so rigid. He's so strict." And I'm like, "Ma'am, you are speaking like we had no idea, but you did. So why is it so strange to you that he requires this rigidity?
And I promise you, if he told us and Orna, he told you, I need structure. The structure keeps me
Oh
sober.
my
If
God.
I'm if I don't have structure, I'm going to lose my sobriety. So if he's told us that, he certainly has told you that. And you were like, YOLO, what?
Yes, and this is why people date. Then you find out the things. Am I able to, work with this or am I not? But don't say, oh, I don't want to lose myself. I still want to be a free spirit. We're not talking about free spirit or being rigid for the sake of it. This is an addict who has been through and diagnosed with many things that is just trying to make it through the day. Okay? So she says, I understand, but I cannot have him shut down every time she says the word Adderall, which is also fair because he's not creating a space for her to even bring up things because we saw that reaction as soon as she said it. But also, we don't know if it's a combination of this is the first time I'm hearing it. You went through many steps, and I, the father, was not the first in line to, to know about this. I don't know which is which. So Orna says this is a difficult situation where Jason, you're going to be triggered by what you're hearing. And Jason's like, I am really triggered.
Yay. Using a word he just learned. You go, boy.
No, I do feel some compassion for him in this way because again, he's dealing with an addiction. And yes, I think what he suffers from is like there's a lot of projection, but I can't blame him because all he's trying to do is protect his son. But I feel like his son is suffering the consequences of him seeing himself in his son and wanting to provide the protection that he didn't get as a child, you know? But he has to have balance. So I don't know. Orna tells him like he needs to take a deep breath and say to yourself like all I need to do right now is listen. Marge says like it is never like she understands, it's understandable, and she understands it's because he has this addiction history, but because he has this history it doesn't mean that Ryan, their child, is like him. Like, he just shuts it down completely, and then when he shuts it down he immediately threatens divorce. And that's what she's more upset about, is like we can't even work this through, and it feels like to work this through she has to be submissive, and then it turns into like I'm a shitty mom and I didn't do everything that I could to try to help him. I don't know about you, Jen, but she said a lot that I didn't even know
Yeah.
where to tackle from. And if she was just throwing everything out there just to kind of deflect, because you're upset that he was shutting things down. Then she said, oh, you threatened divorce, and that's what I'm upset about. Then she said, well, it feels like I have to shrink myself and be submissive. Then she says, it feels like you're saying I'm a shitty mom. And then it feels like, oh, I'm not doing everything to help him. And I'm like, okay, I don't, which do we tackle? I don't know.
Exactly. And I could see, like, if they are having a conversation outside of this, why that would either shut Jason down or get him confused, because to your point, which am I supposed to deal with first? Like, I mean, what I would think, you deal with being partners first, and take divorce off the table. Divorce isn't an option. Like, deal with that first, and then you can deal with all the other stuff. But yeah, it's a lot to be throwing at somebody, and it's a lot for him to unpack when he doesn't have the tools, when he's already elevated and his feelings are at
Yeah.
the top and he's already feeling disrespected. I can't worry about you when now I'm worried about myself. I'm worried about my son. I'm worried about all that. You're picking something that's totally against what I believe in personally. Like, don't even get the politics into it, but like, I constantly live in a place where I have to compromise, and this is a place where I'm not going to compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And he's dug his heels in. Crazy. So crazy.
Yeah. Orna says like they both care about their son, and he says like, yeah, but we have wildly different ways of going about it. And Orna is like, well, I wouldn't say it's wildly different. I'm like, Orna,
I'm glad she said that, because I don't think it is wildly different. They both want the best for their son. Their approaches are crazy, but
I
that's
think
because they're
it's
not
wildly
giving each
different.
other the same information.
I think it's wildly different because he's like, I would never in a million years consider drugs. And she's just like, let's just go straight to the drugs. Like she had an inkling, they do that, and then it's immediately let's go to the drugs. And he's like, what, 9 years old? So that's where I think it's wildly different. And I can't say what is right or what is wrong because I'm in the camp of Jason, whereas like I don't necessarily always want to treat everything immediately with drugs. Like, have we tried anything? Do we know if it's because there's trouble at home or all the things that he said? Has he talked to anyone? Has he done anything? We just woke up one day and we know the American healthcare system, they love to prescribe you a drug. It doesn't matter what it is. What do you need? I got you and I'll give it to you. And especially for a kid who he has many years ahead of him to start other drugs, that you just had an inkling and said, "Oh, I think he might have ADHD." Then you bring it up, and then all of a sudden we're going drugs. I kind of understand, but that could be my bias because I understand where he's coming from. I would think like you would do different steps, and hers is just to go to drugs immediately. And I do think that is wildly different because what is a compromise in that? I mean, they got to some kind later, but at the point where they're all heightened and not speaking to each other, um, I think it is. So Orna says, "Okay, Jason, try to speak to her in a gentle tone and sound open." I was expecting like, a deep breath, a pause or whatever. He immediately turns to her and flips and is like, "I understand you want to get him treated, Marge. And I think that there's some other alternatives out there that are outside of the medicine. I do think with a little hard work between you and I think a little discipline and structure in our house, and we don't need to go straight to, him being possibly getting medicated for ADD or ADHD." And this adds to my guess that the parenting style is just a little wonky when he said a little discipline and structure, because I can see Marjorie, again, we've said it before, where it feels like she wants to be friends with her kids or feels like she's parenting out of guilt, like, "Oh, I separate, like, I got divorced, or they don't have this, or they're separated, so I just want to give them and make their lives so easy." But at the end of the day, you're a parent, not a friend. And I don't think he's so wrong in trying that out first. I think he's saying, let's try some things out first, then we can go to medicine. Medicine seems like the easy way out to him. And I know there may be others that disagree, but there has to be some kind of compromise.
Yeah. But and I imagine that outside of the therapy session, that he may not have arrived at that in a conversation. I would imagine because Orna requires him to speak in a softer tone, think about what he says and being intentional in his words, that he arrived at this therapy counseling thing in session. I don't know if they had this conversation at home, especially the way that she presented it, if he was able to get there first. He would have just been yelling.
Yeah, because they also do the cardinal rule with, wait, the cardinal no rule of do not focus on being right. He's very focused on being right and he's not open to any other thing on there. Um Ona says, "Jason, that's a good moment to stop. Let's see how, Marge is taking this." And Marge is like, "I'm surprised because when we talk, you always tell me like you wouldn't even acknowledge that he got a diagnosis. Like you wouldn't even do any education, And he says like he would rather bring in a professional to talk to him that deals with that and not a pediatrician doing a wellness visit. And I'm like, okay, that's compromise. And also that's true. Like, I didn't even think about that. Like, I'm not versed on that, but I'm like, that's true. Like, wouldn't we have someone who's an expert on that? He was like, and then he's like, "I'm gonna do things, like I'm gonna do research. I'll find the best guy with the best reviews." And I don't know if he's being sarcastic, like a throwback to the renowned guy that threw him out. But he was like, "I'll do the best guys with the best reviews. That takes our insurance.
That takes
Living in
our insurance.
America, guys, that's so
That takes our
important."
insurance. That
Let me
was real. That was the realest thing that happened today, because he was like, "I'm gonna find the best that takes our insurance."
So in the category of within our insurance, the best of the best, because guys, even with insurance, you are paying out your ass, and um, God forbid you're out of network. That's the
Yeah,
worst.
yeah.
So, and then he was like, "We'll go there. We'll go together. We'll have a real conversation, him and I and you, and I can agree to that." And I'm like, was that so? It sounds so common sense, but it's a shame that that is not your first thought. And that's because you guys don't consider each other. Like you do something so long it becomes habit. And I think that's just where they are now.
Yeah. But again, they've practiced the skill of, let's think about the other person several times. And so how do you get this thing to stick? And I
Mm.
think at some point, Orna says, "Yeah, they have more therapy to practice. Like they're not done."
Like I said, let's get a where are they now? Like we need to know what's happening. So I want to ask,
They're
so
on
what do you
TikTok.
oh, okay. So
At
they're
least
still
Jason is.
together.
I don't know, that he popped across my feed talking about he's no longer MAGA, or
Oh
at
yeah,
least
I
he's no
talked about
longer
that a
Trump
couple
supporter.
of
Yeah,
episodes
yeah. So
ago.
I mean, in terms of where they are now, they're on TikTok.
Ah, interesting. But they're not doing couples content?
Okay, I did not. I did not follow that. No.
Okay, so Orna asked, so what do you each need to do to unify? And I need to, I think, who said this? Jason. I need to maybe watch my tone a little bit and try to articulate my words in a softer way. And it's very hard because I see what I see and it just comes out, but I need to manage that. And Orna's like, that's key on your end. And she's like, Marjorie, what do you need for the two of you to get on the same page? And she's like, well, I guess I could listen to him and just try to understand where he's coming from. I'm like, no, Marjorie, wrong answer. Maybe like respect him and, consider that he's someone in your household that you say you love and you chose to partner with and have a kid with. And we'll see where that goes. So they talk about how you can say, can you please calm down? I want to hear you. Please speak in a softer tone. And I want to hear you take a deep breath. And I'm like, ugh, this is a lot. So I don't know if they're going to practice that. They're just 0 to 100 real quick. But then Orna says, you guys have the capacity to do great. I'm like, Orna, ma'am, we don't need to lie to these people. They're not there yet, but it's okay. So Orna says, I think the two of them will benefit from a longer time in couples therapy. They just need to keep rehearsing and kind of getting into their system the practice of listening better. I mean, they've had a lifetime of learning certain patterns, and now they need some time to reverse some of that. Good luck to them. I don't.
Yeah.
Just a lot of work to do. So I'll take a
Vaya con
quick.
Dios.
I'll take a quick break, and I'll be right back. All right, we're back with Shane Clinton. Orna says that with Shane Clinton, man, this did not unfold the way that she expected in the beginning. That year he was playful and a little goofy, and Shay loved that. But it was just really hard in the treatments. Like they really tried. They showed up, even though it was like painful and difficult. And in their relationship, they both worked to try to be good friends and to be good partners to understand each other. And she's going to see them one more time together and it could just fall apart. But her hope is that they will make the transition from seeing each other as enemies to connecting to their friendship. And you know what's funny when she said that? I was trying to think like, oh, when they came in, they were like, I've never seen them as friends. It just seemed like there was already a lot of resentment by the time we they came in for therapy. Like I
And
never
yeah,
saw the tender moments between them.
and I had that question too. Like, were they friends before? Like, why are we so
Yeah.
hard to push this friendship? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't get that they were friends that became lovers. Like, they met on a online, didn't they?
I don't recall. I
I
don't
but I
recall.
don't I get the feeling they weren't like friends turned lovers. So I don't understand why we're pushing this friendship so hard. But I agree with you. I don't remember there being like tender and soft and lovable. Like they were always
Yeah.
kind of in this place of crisis.
Contentious. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've seen one picture where maybe they were hugging when they were showing the family background, but they seem to be pretty independent of each other. But the other thing I clocked, and I don't know if you clocked it, Clinton's beard shape up is good. So
Oh,
whoever this new girl is got his stuff right. All right. I was like, you go, Clinton, with
um,
your beard shape up.
we saw the new girl at the end. I don't think
We
we can give her
do.
kudos. It is not her doing that for him. Maybe one of his new friends that he has now, but it is not his new girl. So they get to the hallway for therapy. They won't even look at each other in the hallway. That's how bad it is. And they come in, and Shay is like, I took some notes from our last session. And she realized that she was never taught to really ever communicate her feelings. So she thinks she has a hard time sometimes when it's time to start talking about her feelings. And when she does, she starts to break down because it makes it more real, especially when you're telling it to someone else, and it's just such an experience for her. So Orna is just like, can you share your experience, talk to Clinton, and tell him what you want to say? And she said she would say that she is sad, that she feels deeply sad, that it's been challenging to not speak to him at all. It's been, they used to speak to each other every day. And she was hoping that they could find some middle ground and they could stand together. But then nothing worked. And she also feels like he moved on so quickly. And not only did she feel harmed, I'm like, harmed? Those are very strong words. But then she felt replaced. And then Arna chimes in and is like, I recommend that you like exist like in the wonderful and speak about what matters to you, but also let's, check in with Clinton. So I guess that was her way of like reeling things back, but I wish you could have, I mean, what did she mean by harmed?
Oh, I got stuck on what did you miss? Like you talk every conversation to him seemed like an obligation. And do you
Yeah.
really miss having to deal with his credit cards? Do you really miss having to
Yeah.
deal with him not telling you the truth? Like what is it that you missed? All of it felt terrible. So that part got me. I didn't even clock what you just clocked. I was just like, missed what?
Having control over
I
someone.
guess. Ugh.
So she's like, Clinton, how are you feeling? He's like, I'm okay. I'm just listening. I'm just listening to her. And he's like, I hear where she's coming from. Thank you. And I miss her a lot. And I can see that she felt like I was abandoning the relationship. At this point, Shay is crying. And might I add, Shay looks so pretty today. She did something
She
to her
did.
hair and her makeup, and she looked really pretty. He says like he wasn't abandoning the relationship. What happened is that he found a community where he could talk to them more. And he doesn't really have a lot of friends. At this point, he's talking, in his baby voice and kind of breaking down a little. And yeah, he fell in love with this autistic person, but he loved Shay and wanted to marry her. And just the thought of saying I wanted to marry her just got Shay breaking down. And I'm like, Shay, you really wanted to marry this man? I like everything Jen just said a few moments ago. I'm like, it didn't sound great on your end. You were not happy.
No.
Why
But I
are
guess
people committed to
if
unhappiness?
she's stuck on like I loved you and I gave you all of this, and for him to say I wanted to marry you, it feels like, especially because she felt like she's so stuck on he moved on so quickly. So how I would imagine that hurts more to hear for her. Like not only did you move on quickly, you moved on quickly even though you were thinking about marrying me. Sucks.
Yeah.
So I get why she was upset.
Yeah. I also wish we had a time span of how long the sessions and everything was and how long it was before the new girlfriend, or because if he already has a girlfriend, then she was right. There was an overlap over there. So he says he knows that he hurt Shay, but he's really sorry. He's really, really sorry. And then he starts crying. He curls up on the couch and then he starts to sob. It's not just tears, like his body's racking, like sobs. Orna says, "Oh, that's nice. The two of you being able to be sad together and talk is great." I'm like, okay, I guess I don't get it. But she says that she still loves him deeply, and he's like, "Yeah, I will always love you." And then he goes to her and puts his head on her lap.
So
Um,
annoyed
that seems
immediately.
to be the
I
move.
was triggered. I was triggered by Chris. And I was like, no, no more of these men putting their head in women's laps. No.
Well, I mean, they always take the. Okay, that I was going to say they always take the head, but they always. Well, they
Heyo.
do. They take it and they stroke it, okay? Because she did. And honestly, that was the end of their session. I still maintain the producer just like as little as Shay and Clinton as we can put because that was it. And I was like, whoa, okay, we're done. And that's it. So we see her doing her activities with her friend. She's doing karaoke. She seems to have moved on. And Orna says, well, it's an incredibly important lesson for people to know that there's just a huge amount of learning that can happen from breaking up well, and people can resume their journey as individuals with a better understanding of themselves. And that's when we see Clinton's new girlfriend. She's wearing a mask, so we don't really get to see her full face, but they are, I don't know, playing a card game somewhere, and Clinton seems to be thriving and happy, and they're walking hand in hand on the street. Yeah.
I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he found his community. I'm not happy how he did it, but I'm
Yeah.
happy that now he doesn't have like one person being the sole, you know,
Yeah.
person to determine where his life is going to go. And so that part I'm happy. And Shay hopefully is happier. She seems to have a good network of friends. So this was a not an ideal breakup, but one that
Yeah.
seemed to be, it went how it should have gone.
Yeah, because eventually they're gonna listen, whether they want to admit it or not, they're not compatible. It was for the season. They were not meant to be long term. And it doesn't help anyone to be in a relationship where you're on eggshells. She felt like she couldn't say anything. She felt like he was hiding behind his autism. And she just felt like, I don't want to say things to hurt his feelings. And even some things that she would say, he can't clock it the way that she would clock it. It's almost like she was treating him as if he processes information like everybody, like the average person. And he just doesn't. It's just a mere fact. And he felt like he wasn't being his full self. He left his mom, but he didn't leave his mom to come be in a relationship where he felt like he was with his mom all over again. He just wants to feel some freedom. And whether he's wrong or right, he just wants to feel like at least it's on my own terms. And he's finding that with his community. And Shay's going to find someone that's great for her. And he's going to find, or he found someone that's great for him. So they'll be all right, you know?
Yay.
Okay, they saved the best for last, Drea and Nessa. They come in, and Drea says, I did notice that she seemed down a little bit after our last session. And then somehow, within 24 hours, we're having sex with each other.
But
And they're
also
making,
so weird that like it's a secret because Dre was like, Nessa doesn't want me to tell you this. So what's the secrecy about? You're in therapy. What are we holding back now?
because they know this is the second time, remember? Nessa
Yes.
came in here, take sex off the table. I don't want to do this. Oh, she's wearing her nightgown. Oh, I don't want to sleep in there because she has to recognize sometimes when you see things through other people's eyes and you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. So you know what? You know, how, like I think was it here where we talked about when you have a cleaner come into your house and then you clean up your house because you're ashamed and you don't want them to see that your house was dirty.
Yeah.
She's trying to clean it up
Well,
because it
that.
is ridiculous.
Hmm.
So
So,
she's like, what I'm saying, what I'm seeing is that there's a pattern. I'm just, what in the heck? Like, what are we doing? Like, but Jaya says, Jaya says she thinks Orna is right, that she's right that they should have boundaries. And then Nessa comes in there and she feels like, oh, what are the boundaries? How can I break these boundaries? And I'm like, Nessa's the worst. I'm sorry. I'm so,
yes.
so sorry because
Yes.
this
Yes.
is terrible. This is
Yes.
just awful. So Nessa's like, I'm not trying to sabotage her boundaries. It's just that when she actually does the homework and she's able to separate, aka be less codependent, it's just really attractive to me. Can I point out that I found it very interesting that she chose to use the word when she chooses to separate from me versus saying when she decides to be less codependent. I don't know if that means anything, but it just stood out to me that she chose to say separate from me.
But also, she didn't choose to separate from her. You left, whether or not physically or emotionally. But you in last episode talked about leaving the whole room when she was trying to be sexy. So she didn't choose to separate. You didn't give her any choice. And now you find that sexy because like when you had a whole marriage to somebody else, you were still messing with her. So there's something about this the separation that you've caused that you found attractive. Be real with
Yeah.
yourself.
But
Ugh,
we talked about it last
Vanessa.
episode. It's just the fact that she truly believes because remember the language was if she's really telling the truth, if she's really gonna go, but there's something about oh shit, she might be serious and she might go and she's like, nope, I'm never gonna find anyone I can control like this anymore, so I gotta keep this, you know? And the whole time that she's doing it, Drea's looking at her lovingly, and I'm like, these two should probably just be together and leave us out of it because they like the pattern, it's gonna happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. So they say like they were basically breaking up, but when they came down to the next session, they were in a new place and then deciding not to break up. And this is, I think this was Nessa talking, and she says, I think what happened. Again, this is the separate thing, that she gets longings when Nessa decides that, again, she says the separate thing. And I don't know what to do with this because Nessa's on a journey to discover more of herself. I mean, but they're like, the work we did in couples therapy is just the tip of the iceberg. You mean there's more? What?
I like when Nessa says, I've done the work. And Orna says, oh, really? What work? And she says nothing. Because you haven't done crap. Shut up, Ronessa. Shut up.
So Nessa says, I went from I need to get out of here to I'm going to how am I going to leave to okay, space is here. So I'm okay. So I'm going to go home now. And because there's space made within the marriage, that to your point, she's like, she's doing the work for herself, which kind of freed up some energy for her. And I'm like, Nessa, that's a whole bunch of word salad. Like, I just.
Word salad.
So when I think Orna asked her a question and she's like, I've experienced a lot. When she was in her teenage years, she survived the shooting with her brother. And because of the trauma, that she didn't allow herself to be that little girl that was, interesting choice of words. She goes, that was pink, soft or cared for. And I didn't feel protected in the way that I should have been protected. And I think it showed up in like the tough girl persona that she puts on. Like, no, I'm fine. I can take care of it and I don't need anything else. And she thinks that the little girl that needed protection, she blocked off parts of her that are trying to come out to be like, I need someone to take care of me. So I'm like, well, that's my wife. My wife is going to take care of me. But she's like, no, you got to take care of me in that way. And she's like, no, you take care of me, but this is how we built this. And I'm like, okay, but there's still that part of me that needs that. So where do I find that? And my question for you is, did you think this fit into the conversation, or did you think that this was just Nessa bringing up something else again to justify her behavior?
B, all the way B all day. Because anytime she's challenged on something,
Yeah.
then that's when she brings up some
Yep.
tragedy that's happened to her life. So
Yeah.
before, and I'm not saying that all of these things aren't valid, but these are all
Yeah.
things that you need to work on outside of your relationship with Drea. But she
Yeah.
brought up the thing about all of her friends ditching her. She brought up the thing about having to take care of her mom and having to be the resource for her
Hmm.
mom. Now there's the shooting, then about having to deny her being a lesbian, and then the church thing. Like, you have a lot of stuff going on, and those are all things that you
Hmm.
should absolutely work on. But none of those things have anything to do with Drea.
Yeah, and she's willing to talk about that, but not give us full information. Like the pastor comparing the blessing of your child to a porn addiction, like you being married to a man for 9 months, like you being married and sleeping with Drea the whole time, like you just saying, "Oh, I don't want this," and leaving the apartment to go buy a house, and then you moved her in. Girl, like, okay. So Orna asks Drea if she has heard that described that way before. She says she has, but she never heard her related to the tough guy persona that, and it's funny because the way Nessa dates pictures in her mind, it's with the shooting. Like it's like that's a timestamp, of her life. So Drea says she feels like the more controlled that she was, the more that she was set in stone with her. But the more that Drea grows up, that she understands that she can exist without being Velcroed. Nessa says, but that's the thing. Anytime she says something like this, I feel like I can breathe and I can just relax. And Drea was like, okay, recently, like we had sex and we were just wrapped up in each other. And it just reminded me of when we first met. And it just felt normal. It felt nice. And Nessa is smiling. And Orna just says, it's been a treat working with you. I'm like, I think they're her favorites too. She was like, you guys are deliciously smart, and I will miss you. She did not tell any other couples that. I'm gonna tell you that. And
You don't think Marjorie and Jason got that? What?
so Drea is joking and she's like, did you say I was your favorite? Who's your favorite? And all that stuff. So she hugs them as they leave. And Orna says, when you understand that a lot of what people do is motivated by forces that they're not aware of, you can feel much more compassion towards them. And when you hear what people have gone through and understand like how they've become who they've become, it opens up like the horizon to understand who's there in front of you. And then we see Chris and Sienna saying, "Hey, we got tattoos to commemorate our time here." It was like a heart with a band-aid or something
Yeah.
like that.
Hmm.
And then we see her like hug all the couples. When she's hugging Marjorie and Jason, she hugs Marge, but then she asks Jason for permission. She's like, "Can I hug you?" I'm like, okay. She does not hug Shay and Clinton. She just opens the door for them and leads like, "Okay, bye."
See ya. See ya.
And that was it. And then it's Halloween, I think, when they wrapped everything up and we see all of them in their various costumes for Halloween and the credits roll. And that was the end of season 5.
We can breathe now.
I do wonder if they're going to do the same thing as season 4, where we had that part B with like all new different couples. And I'm like, why is it not just like season 6? What is 4B? Like, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do that
I
this
hope
time.
not. I'm good. This was a good wrap up. This was a good bow. This is closure. I'm good.
Yeah, but it was new couples.
I know, but I'm not ready for new couples. I'm still processing. I'm still processing what I've been through with these couples. I'm not ready to bring new couples in. You should take a break between, one tough relationship and a new one. Like you should let it breathe. So I need some breathing room before I start diving into new couples.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Jen, thank you for joining me on this season. Always a pleasure to do couples therapy with you. And do you have any final thoughts, words about the season, Orna, anything?
I'm still impressed by you always. Not only that you keep all of these meticulously good notes, but you have incredible insights onto couples. And if you ever decide to chuck your career and go into therapy, I think you've got a powerful future in that, if you can do it without getting into student debt. So yes, always a pleasure working with you and talking with you and meeting with you every week. I'm going to miss you.
I know.
But I'm excited to listen to you and to see all of the stuff that you've got going on. You're doing awesome.
Thank you. I'm going to have you back one way or another. I'm excited for you to go to Australia. That is pretty cool. But one last time, can you share, not forever, guys, but just one last time this season, can you share with people where they can find you and your husband?
Yes, you can follow my husband and I as we travel the world. Right now we're in Asia. And so we've got Australia, Japan, and Taiwan coming up. So you can follow us on jns.adventures on Instagram and YouTube.
Okay. Guys, you know where to find me. Tain Talks on all of the social media of your choice. Please give me a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Stay subscribed so you don't miss out on any new episodes. Don't forget that Maps is coming back soon, and I will be covering that as well. So look out for that. July 12th is the season premiere, we've heard. So I'll be back with that. Until next time, guys.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Tain Talks.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions, pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.